Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the nerdiest competition ever created by the Language of Bromance team. In this corner, obsessed with Star Wars and anything with swords, Richard! And in this corner, obsessed with the Ninja Turtles and scared of anything from the ocean, Shawn! In association with the LOB Army. Tonight's competition is a Language of Bromance Draft.
What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we are speaking the language of bromance. And today, Shawn, you and I are going to dinner. We're going to a fancy dinner.
Party of
Put
7.
on your Sunday best.
Party of 7. Yes, Richard, for our 57th draft ever, we are going to put together.
God. You know what? First off, can I just say, let's stop numbering the drafts because it makes me feel old when you say that. You're like, because what happens when you get to the point of like, for our 482nd draft, and I'm gonna be like, oh Jesus Christ, why do we keep doing this? What was the matter with us?
Well, I'm just hoping we can get to 69.
Nice.
For our 69th draft.
Nice.
But no, for this draft, Richard, we are going to put together a dinner party, with people that are currently alive in the year 2020.
They have to be alive.
Yep.
That was the stipulation.
I will note,
hurt me.
Yeah, I will note we are recording this on September 3rd of 2020.
That's a good point.
So this may, or like, I don't know if there's anybody on my list that I would say is at risk, but again, you never know.
Yeah.
But so the idea behind this draft is we're going to pick 7 people that are going to get to our party, and we're kind of the host of this party. So lots of kind of, what if you draft some people that won't get along? Will there be a food fight? Is it going to be like Thanksgiving where all of a sudden Uncle Joe starts talking about politics?
I'll tell you what, it's a good thing that you said that we're the hosts of this party, because otherwise I feel like I would have to put myself on the list as a guest at this dinner party just so that way I could go.
Well, probably we'd show up anyway like, no, we're the hosts. Like, get out of here. But so if you don't know, and you should, our drafts are 7 rounds in NFL styles where we flip-flop picks back and forth. And back in the day, we flipped a page to see who goes first, and I won. So odd drafts, I get the first pick. Even drafts, Richard gets the first pick. And this is an odd draft, so I will start us off with the first pick for this dinner party with people who are alive.
Oh, gee, what do you got?
So, Richard, do you have anything before I jump into my first pick?
I'll tell you what, I have a list, but I don't know if I'm going to be changing the list as I go. Like I have a full list of 14 in case by some fucking weird miracle you end up picking all 7 of my people. I do have 14 here. However, I feel like I'm going to be changing this as we go along.
I got you. I've got 14 as well. I try to get 14. Kind of the bottom half is kind of like the same thing, but I feel pretty solid about all of them. But for my first pick, Richard, what I want, dinner parties, if you have people who, they can be awkward sometimes. Yeah. So you want somebody there that will feel like your best friend, that'll be comforting, that's somebody that you just feel like you can talk to at any moment in time. So for my first pick, I want to I want to get the guy who I think is everybody's best friend. Everybody loves this guy. I've never heard a bad thing said about this guy in the world. Yeah. Top movie star of all time. Not all time, at least last year. Richard, I want to go with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So I was a big wrestling fan.
Not on my list at all.
I'm not a big rock fan per se, but whenever I see him on Instagram talking about his family, his kids, super funny. Whenever you see him interact with fans, He's just like super warming. He's kind of like, to me, even though he's like ripped and huge and probably harder, but he seems like a softer Kevin Smith, you know? He doesn't feel like he controls the conversation as much. It's more of a you get a real good back and forth feel. I don't feel like he's going to try and one-up you on anything, which is probably just his acting skill for sure. But I feel like he could really kind of talk to everybody at the table. He'd have a lot of interesting things to say. Has his own tequila company, so he could bring his own bottle of tequila.
Don't they all?
Well, I know Ryan Reynolds just had gin that he sold. He used to have that company and sold it.
And then fucking what's his name? Clooney. Clooney's got a liquor company.
Yeah.
That apparently he makes fucking bank off of.
I mean, well, it's one of those hooches that they like. It's probably not the greatest, but since it's got George Clooney's name on it, they up the price.
Well, I don't think it even has his name on it. He's just part of it.
Oh, like a part owner.
It's like okay, like P Diddy. Like everybody thinks, you know, fucking P Diddy, like huge music star, you know, fucking ghetto superstar, and you know, like one of the, you know, rappers that fucking represented the East Coast, right?
Yeah. Didn't he shoot Tupac?
Allegedly. No, I don't know who allegedly shot Tupac.
Or did he shoot Biggie? I don't remember what side he was on.
No, he didn't shoot Biggie. He was Biggie's best friend. Biggie and P Dids were fucking East Coast.
Yeah.
Tupac, Snoop, Dre, that's West Coast.
I've listened to the podcast where they break that down. It's super interesting, super scary. It's like, do you want to be a rap star? I'm like, no, I don't.
I was more of a West Coast fan myself, but you know, fucking couldn't deny Biggie. Biggie was fucking boss. Anyway, not the point. Point is everybody thinks that P Diddy makes all his money from like concerts and music. Not true. 80% of all that fucking, you know, mountains of fucking cash he makes, you know what he makes it off of? Ciroc.
What's Ciroc?
It's a liquor.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a hard liquor. That's where he makes like 80% of his revenue.
That's interesting. And I don't know if I don't know if The Rock, he had a lot to do with like the distilling of it. Like he was taste testing it for a long time and whatnot, but yeah, it's just interesting. Like think about that. Like you could talk to him about like his wrestling career, his acting career, his, you know, side projects.
That's what I was going to ask. What would you guys talk about?
Probably his tequila gig, because I think that'd be super interesting. Just buying XFL, I'd be really interested to pick his brain about that. And then probably talking a little bit about wrestling, just because I think he came up as a third generation.
Third generation. Yeah, he was third generation. Rocky Maivia.
Yeah, so pick his brain about that a little bit, because you kind of get like some, you know, behind the screen kind of discussions on it. But yeah, I think my first pick, I think he'd be a lot of fun. He'd keep the party going. It'd be The Rock.
Not the first pick I thought you were going to go for. That's interesting. Well, now I feel like I got to steal it.
Well, you can steal away.
I am going to steal away.
I've got him kind of towards the bottom of my list.
Go ahead. You tell me who it is.
Kevin Smith?
Yeah, it is.
I had seriously thought about making my number one pick because, like, we love Kevin Smith. The only issue, I think, in a party of 7, because if you see him in that party of 5 or 4, whatever it was back in the day, he would control the conversation all night.
Okay. I agree with you. And I know exactly what you're talking about, because I've seen those, the dinner for 5.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know, way back on, I think it was the Independent Film Channel, in like the early 2000s, Jon Favreau hosted a show called Dinner for 5, where he picked 5 people and they would sit down and they would have dinner. I think they like cleared out a restaurant in LA, and these 5 people would sit down and they would have dinner. It was always 5 different people, and they always, you know, they had like amazing conversation, because it was just 5 people talking. The one you're referring to where you felt like he controlled the conversation, I feel like the reason he did that was because he was the quote unquote host for that show.
Yeah, and
because
I get it.
Favreau, I guess, couldn't make it once, and so Favreau asked Kevin if he could do it, and Kevin was like, you know, okay, sure. So Kevin's like, they said you get to pick the 5 people. So Kevin picked, and remember, this is early 2000s. Okay. So he picks J.J. Abrams, who had at the time had just started Lost.
I think he was getting ready to get into it. I think Alias.
Yeah, but he had Alias. Yeah. He had Alias, and then he had the Regarding Henry. That was like his big thing, was Regarding Henry, the movie he did with Harrison Ford. So J.J. Abrams, Jason Lee, Brody, Stan Lee, which come on, Mark Hamill, and I cannot remember.
Ben Affleck?
No, there was another episode where it was him, Ben Affleck, and Jennifer Gardner. The three of them were there for one. I cannot remember for the life of me who the fifth person was. Was it Jason Biggs?
No, Biggs wouldn't have been it.
Oh, God, I cannot remember for the life of me. It was Jason Lee, Stan Lee, Mark Hamill, J.J. Abrams, and I still cannot remember the fifth person.
Because it was Kevin Smith was the other one. So it was J.J.
Oh,
Abrams,
yeah, and then
Mark
Kevin.
Hamill,
Yeah, Kevin was
Jason
the fifth one.
Kevin, yeah.
Okay. But it was great episode, cool conversation. But yes, I would pick Kevin for obvious reasons. Great conversationalist. Talk with him about anything. I would probably go on a tear about like the music he puts in movies and like where he finds music, finds the ideas for music for movies. I still want to ask him, which I think he answered maybe at one point, but I definitely want to ask him about that live song he put in Zack and Miri Make a Porno, because you can't find that song anywhere.
I think
I found it. It finally came up on Spotify. Yeah. But originally it was like the band Live had put the song on like a demo tape, and you couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't find it on fucking YouTube.
Yeah, he talked about it somehow, how he stumbled on that and put it in. But I mean, again, I think it would be a great. I'd almost like relinquish my host duties to him if he was at my party, because I feel like he'd just do a much better job at it.
Yeah, but then you don't get to go. That's what happens. I'll be like, listen, I'd make you the host, but then if I make you the host, then there's no reason for me to be there.
So you sit down and be silent, Bob. Funny quick note about Kevin Smith. I talked to you already about this, but I actually got to talk to him face to face on his AMA he did for his That Kevin Smith Club.
Super jelly.
Yep, it was pretty sweet. He's like I said,
and they don't sponsor us, but you're plugging it anyway.
Oh yeah, if you're a Kevin Smith fan, you should jump in on that.
100%.
They just set it up now for their. I think they're trying to do. I think every other Friday. He did mention at this one he was going to do every Friday, but he hadn't let Will know that yet.
Yeah,
and it's if you're at the top 2 tiers, you get to jump in, and if they pick your question, you get to FaceTime them and. Super awesome. Like it wasn't like a hey, ask your question and go. Like his AMA, like his Q&As, it's more of like hey, you ask your question and he talks for 30 minutes. It was very much conversational where he's asked about my day, how I was doing, what I was doing, like what I did for work. Super fun, awesome dude.
Good stuff.
All right, Richard. For my second round pick, I feel like this is maybe the one opportunity that I would have a chance to talk to somebody in this industry in a safe environment that my wife would not judge me too much on.
Okay.
So there is
Q hot girl.
Yeah. So there is.
That was a very diplomatic way of putting that. Be like, I'm going to pick a very attractive woman now.
I don't know if you know who she is, but she is. She's got the namesake of one of my favorite TMNT characters of all time.
Okay.
She starred in a parody of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I don't know what her real name is, but her stage name, if you will, is April O'Neil.
It's a porn star, right?
She's a porn star, yes.
Okay.
She.
I like how you danced around that. You were like that was masterful. I'm sorry if I'm outing you by saying that's a porn star, isn't it?
So we do follow her on our Twitter, and it's not like she posts like a bunch of nudes on her Twitter. She is huge into pinball. She's big fans with
like
Ming
old
Chen.
school pinball.
Yeah, old school.
Is
pinball.
she a pinball wizard?
I think so. Yes. She's got like top records in places. Like she goes to like museums and like the Hall of Fame place or whatever it is. She's big. Obviously she likes the Turtles. It's April O'Neil. She's friends with Ming Chen.
Nice.
it'd be fun to kind of, because she does like all parodies, I guess. I've never seen any of them.
Yeah. Now I will say, like, I didn't mean to say like porn star like disparagingly, like, oh, she's a porn star, meaning that she would have nothing interesting to say. I think she would be fascinating. Whenever I see a porn star do an AMA on Reddit, like, I am in there, and not because I'm like, I bet she's gonna show nudie pictures of herself. Like, no, the questions and the answers that they give are super interesting. I think that I and I don't know this, but I would guess that as an adult film star, like, you have a certain level of celebrity, but you're able to act from a level of anonymity. And I think that comes from the fact that not a lot there are a lot of people that know you, but not a lot of people that will admit to knowing you.
Yeah. So like if like let's say we're out in the street and I see April O'Neil and she's got some very like they are like they're not like in super inappropriate places, but she does have like tattoos and spots that like you'd be like, is that? And you look like, oh, that is. I'm not gonna be like, babe, let's go say hi. Like, well, how do you know this person? Research. But and
the
like
gym.
But I'm the same way. Like, I think it's a super interesting thing that like you don't know a lot about the back ends of it. So like kind of learning, how you get into it and not like trying to get into it, but just kind of like asking the questions that you wouldn't be able to ask. And even just kind of like learning like just the business side of that stuff, like
yes,
we've talked about OnlyFans before. That's a huge thing now that's just exploded. It's like, okay, well, where do you see this industry going? Like, what are the things in the industry that you'd like to change? What?
Oh my God, fucking OnlyFans is like, they've gone through some shit in the last like month.
That one lady got like 2 million, like, hey, I'm going to send you nudie pics. And she didn't.
Yeah. And then everybody that paid, a bunch of money for nudie pics and didn't get them were like, well, fuck you. And they went to OnlyFans and like, I want my fucking money back because that was bullshit.
And OnlyFans is like, 2 million, say what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and now OnlyFans apparently has changed their payout model to where so originally I guess the thing is that OnlyFans would pay out to performers, people that have accounts, they would pay out once a week.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so now they've changed it to getting paid out once a month. And the reason for that is because of this fucking chick that like basically like fuck the site over,
because you want to make sure you don't get chargebacks and stuff like that. Because that
exactly
really kills you. Well, I know.
And so now there's all these amateur performers that are on OnlyFans that are like, what the fuck? Like, you basically just like sunk my paycheck for 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I know, and there's a new one that just spun up called like I think Loyal Fans, which they may be still going with like the old OnlyFans model. Because that's like kind of like what Patreon does. Patreon's a once a month kind of payout type thing. So
yeah,
I guess you can pay out whenever you want, but I think you only get paid once. Like it only charges once a month. But
yeah, but basically, I mean, it's like if your boss came to you and said, "Hey, you're only getting paid you're still going to get paid the same, but we're only going to pay you once a month now instead of once a week." And then you're sitting there going, so what do I do for the next 3 weeks?"
Yeah, and then they're like, playing for this. Yeah, good luck.
Fuck you.
But I mean, I would assume that getting that chargeback on that, because I'm sure they're not sitting in like tons of money. It's a pretty small company that just, because they weren't meant to be like a porn site, which is kind of just what happened. Like somebody discovered it and was like, wait, what if I put nudie pictures up here? People pay tons of money. Those Instagram, what do they call them? Influencers. Once they discovered they can shake their booties on there, like cha-ching.
Yep. I feel like you have girls that are, like Instagram models in their 20s. And I feel like if that doesn't end up doing something, then they're going to be on OnlyFans by their 30s.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that one chick, that Tila Tequila.
Oh yeah.
That like she did that show and everything. And then once that started winding down, then she threw out a couple sex tapes.
Yeah. Oops, these leaked. Which, I mean, once ours leaked, it didn't really get much traction, but, here's hoping the 12th time works.
I blame marketing.
But my second pick, just again, not to be like, ooh, boobies, but just more of kind of like a conversation piece would be April O'Neil.
I would actually love to have a conversation with an adult film star.
I've talked just about that for a show.
I don't even know how, like, so many different things. All right. Number 2. I'm sure this isn't anywhere on your list, but I'm picking this one because, again, I feel like this is somebody that I could like sit and I don't even know if it would be like a conversation. I feel like this would be more of a like them talking and me almost like sitting on the floor, like cross-legged, like just staring up and like listening, enamored. Shawn, for my second pick, I'm going with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, I could see that. Kind of be like, hey,
renowned cosmologist, and he could sit there and he could tell me all about the fucking universe. I have watched that show. He's like I've watched tons of like Q&As he's done where like he talks about the universe, he talks about planets, he talks about, science and the existence of God, and like using science to like explain like, metaphysical or even philosophical questions is fucking amazing.
I haven't listened to me. Does he like kind of explain that God is not a thing, or does he kind of explain like with the stuff happening how God could be real, or does he kind of walk the line?
Yeah, the second one.
Second one.
He doesn't rule. He doesn't rule it out, but at the same time, he's saying that it's like evidence says that there's evolution, so like believe evidence.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I could listen to that man talk for hours about anything.
What's nice about that too is you wouldn't even want to probably bring up a topic. You just want to sit there and you'd be like, so what do you want to talk about? And you're like, anything. The floor is yours. And he's like, well, there's no vegan food and I'm vegan. Or maybe because there's vegan food, he's like, I actually don't like vegan food. And him and Kevin get in a fight about it.
I like watching him. I like watching him demolish the flat Earth argument. That's always fun. That brings warmth to my soul.
Yeah. That's a movement
that's like comfort food.
Spawned quicker than maybe it should have.
Oof.
I think
that's all I got is oof.
I think when we did conspiracy draft, I just picked like the flat Earth conspiracy because it is interesting.
Just to watch me lose my fucking mind.
What the fuck? I'm like, I don't believe it. I'm just saying, it's like it's a thing. All right. For my third round pick, Richard.
Moving on. We're moving on.
I discovered this guy through Game Day, which I'd seen him in stuff before, but I never really I didn't know much about him. But once I started watching his late late show, I fell in love with this guy. Recorded it. I'll go back every now and then if I'm having kind of a rough day on YouTube and watch some of his videos, and they're still funny. I don't know if he would do very well in today's environment because I think some of his stuff he's been misconstrued at this point in time. But I think he'd be a fun guest to have. He'd be fun at the table. I'm going to go with one Craig Ferguson.
I think he's got one stand-up special on Netflix that I've seen.
I think there's one on Amazon too. I've watched.
It might be on Amazon. Stand-ups, not bad. Show is really good.
That show
I feel like he was definitely suited for a late show.
Well, I mean, I think he kind of made the point of like nobody watched like from corporate, so he kind of did whatever he wanted to.
Yes, and I loved it. I always love that feeling of like, hey, we're fucking this whole show's on a wing and a prayer. Let's get going. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, it's a little punk rock. I mean, they made up a horse Sagittarius where whenever they said it, a guy in a horse outfit would start running around. Yeah, and then they finally had it set up to where he had his own stable right next to the stage.
Yeah. Huge Doctor Who fan.
Yeah, I was a big Doctor Who fan.
Immense Doctor Who fan. In fact, Peter Capaldi, who was there's the current Doctor, Jodie Whittaker. The person who played the Doctor before Jodie Whittaker is Peter Capaldi. Peter Capaldi played guitar in a band with Craig Ferguson when they were like in their 20s. Cool.
Yeah, and I know like Craig was a guy, he's sober now, but his past, and it seems like he talked about it a decent amount on the show, went through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, you probably want to talk about that at a dinner party, but I think just the conversations you could have, if there's any lull in the moment, I think he would be able to bring it up. Him interviewing April O'Neil would be worth the price of admission.
I could definitely see that.
He had a serious radio show for a bit. I'm not sure where that's ended up at, but
what is he doing now? That's what I'm curious of.
I know, like I said, he started up because he had his robot with him. They were gonna do like a Sirius or XM, whichever one of those, like morning show. And I don't know if they still did it or not. Like, I feel like he's right for a podcast. Like, I'm surprised he hasn't done one of those.
The actual robot he had on the show, Grant Imahara helped build that robot.
Oh, nice. What was
from Mythbusters?
What was the robot's name? Was it Graham?
Jeff.
That's it.
Yeah.
Love that robot.
Plus, he's a talk show host, so of course he's like good at talking to people.
Yeah, and I like that. I don't know if it's true, but he always had to have cue cards because of the union. I guess if you're a talk show host in the union, you had to have cards. Okay. So every time he'd just rip them up and throw them away when he had a guest come on.
Nice.
But absolutely love it. Go back and check it on YouTube. It's great. And my third round pick, I'm going to go with one Craig Ferguson.
All right. For my third pick, I mentioned him before, just kind of in passing. And but I definitely feel like this is someone I need to chit chat with about not just his career, but just like I feel like this man is a repository of all pop culture knowledge over the course of the last like 30 years. Shawn, for my next pick, I'm going with one Mark Hamill.
Good pick.
Yeah. So I don't know. Okay, so for those that don't know, I mean, come on. But not only was he Luke Skywalker, not only has he been the voice of the Joker from like your childhood on since the 90s, but beyond that, the man is just a vault of pop culture knowledge from the last like 50 years. He's a huge fan of everything that everybody loves, of comics, of movies, of television, of, he watched the old 1930s Flash Gordon serials, like when the stuff was happening during Star Wars, like, when they came out with the faces on the box of cereal. So back in the day on cereal boxes, popular characters from movies or cartoons or whatever, they would take the faces and make them, they would print them on boxes of cereal. So after you finish the box of cereal, you would cut out the face and then wear it like a mask. And he thought that was just the fucking coolest thing, that he was going to end up being a mask on a box of cereal. Cause that was like a big deal. That was like, reserved for like fucking like Fred Flintstone and shit like that. And he was fucking like over the moon that's where he sat on the pop culture spectrum.
Well, I think if you get when you get him and Kevin Smith together too, like you've already seen it before, but like the conversation is like you talk about sitting and watching Neil deGrasse Tyson, sitting and just watching those two discuss back and forth, and maybe being able to chime in every now and then would be so freaking awesome.
And I mean, I don't know if I'd even, necessarily want to talk about Star Wars for, the 5 hours that I would lock the doors and force everyone to stay in there. Like, I don't even know if it'd necessarily be about Star Wars. It'd just be about like, old movies or like, old 1930s series or old collectibles. I think he's got like he did a show where he, would travel to people that had like, massive collections of, movie props or toys or, whatever. He did like a little web show where he did that. And like, as soon as somebody's like, hey, do you know what this is? And he's like, oh my God, that's the cover of fucking Batman 285 done by Joe Quesada. And, and you're just like, oh my God, I love you so much.
It'd be a blast. Like I went back and listened to the Fat Man on Batman with him, and they barely talk about Star Wars. but just like his knowledge of like old Hollywood, like when he first broke in, he was roommates with Robert Englund.
He was roommates. They were roommates in like the 80s.
Yeah, which
like the early 80s. And right, because he was like neither one of us really got girls. And so what we would end up doing is we'd sit on the couch together and we'd watch old horror movies from like the 50s and we'd just sit and talk about them. I'm like, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that's like basically the original podcast before. Like they'd be the original Language of Bromance.
Oh my God. Oh, it'd be so great.
Love it.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Mark Hamill, like no brainer.
All right, so for my 4th round pick, this is I guarantee this person is not on your list. But so during I'm a huge baseball fan. We all know this. And during the start of the season, for obvious reasons, the baseball season was postponed.
I don't know much about baseball. And don't know much, I mean very little to none. I know how to play it and I understand it, but I understand that apparently your team is doing quite well.
They are. They were in sole first place for the first time, I think, in at least like 6 or 7 years, if not longer.
Yeah.
They're in second right now. I think they won tonight. I was listening to the game
so
before.
Kudos.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch them right now. And this guy that I'm going to pick is on that current team. With everything going on, baseball was shut down. And so what they did, they have MLB The Show, which is their video game. And they said, hey, while we're shut down, people are stuck at home. Let's get one player from every team, and they'll do a tournament playing this game. And so my team's contestant was Lucas Giolito, who is my pick for the 4th round. So I didn't know a lot. Like with a lot of athletes, especially in baseball, you don't get to see a lot of like personal conversation with them. It's right. You know, I don't know if it's you just say they're more reserved, but they're just not like out there as much as some other sports that are out there. You see a lot. I think hockey's probably the same way, and football's probably about the same way too. Actually, it's probably just all athletes. I don't really think you get like a lot of like personal because like when you listen to them in interviews, it's more like, oh yeah, you know, I hit the ball really far and our team did really good and we got to win. You're like, all right, that was Steve Jones with the interview.
Yeah, that was gonna be my first question. I'm like, okay, like what would you talk about besides baseball?
Probably not much baseball at all. So Lucas Giolito, his mother and father are both actors in Hollywood. So he was raised in California, kind of in the entertainment world.
Okay.
Watching him play watching him play the game, it's the Twitch stream, so he had a lot of conversation back and forth, which was, I mean, it was basically like, it's like, I wouldn't think this is a professional baseball player if I watched this. It seems like just a cool video game nerd.
Sure,
and he is a big video game nerd, so picking his brain about that. The only real like baseball-y talk I'd probably get into, he actually just threw a no-hitter this year, Richard, the first of the season.
Wow.
Which is the 19th in White Sox history. And I think there's been quite like 200 or 300 in like the history of baseball, but there's only like 2 or 3 a year, if that.
So he's a pitcher.
He's a pitcher.
I didn't. Yeah. Okay, that's okay. Okay.
But he's a super cool dude. He's like a big cat fan, so he rescues cats with his. I think they might just be dating. I don't know if they're married.
His bare hands.
His bare hands.
Yeah, climbs into fucking burning buildings
But like he is a huge video game nerd, so I think it'd be fun to pick his brain about that to kind of maybe learn a little bit more about video games myself. But
what's he play?
He played a lot of Rocket League. I think he's a big Zelda fan too.
Nice.
Yeah, he's not big on sports. He does a lot of Call of Duty too when he was streaming, which is just kind of the streaming thing. But again, learn a little bit about what it was like as a kid growing up in Hollywood. Learn about his journey to being a White Sox player, and kind of talk about the no hitter a little bit. So, my 4th round pick, I'm going to go with Lucas Giolito.
Oh God, we're already at 4. I'm not sure where I want to go with this. Okay. So when it comes to actresses, there are, I'm sorry to say this, but there are few, and I mean, you can blame this for whatever, the fact that mass media doesn't really pay a lot of attention to, the way an actress thinks or what an actress thinks or their opinions on things or, whatever. So I feel like it's hard to you know, when you're looking, when I was looking for, you know, an actress, I was like, you know, I was like, you know, off the top of my head, I'm like, what woman in Hollywood would I want to like sit and have a conversation with? And ultimately that list goes super, super small just because, you know, you don't see a lot of that whenever, you know, it's interviews and stuff like that. It's very, I feel like interviews with actresses, I feel like interviewers try to keep the conversation fairly superficial.
Yeah, I get
However,
that.
I've seen a couple of this person and I would love to sit and have a conversation with her. Yes, I mean, don't get me wrong, like super attractive woman, but I feel like the way I've seen her act and speak on all sorts of different stuff. I'm going with Jennifer Lawrence.
You've picked her a couple times in things like that.
I have.
I agree. Like, I used to have a pretty big crush on her. And I agree. She just seems fun. She seems genuine. Like, she seems
I think that's it. Seems super genuine. Yeah. I think she was raised in Kansas.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
And so, but she seems like, you know, the kind of person too, like she seems like somebody you go on a float trip with. It would be like, hey, toss me a beer. You know, it doesn't seem like it would be awkward or anything. Yeah, she is attractive, but like that would not be the reason to bring her there. Like, again, I think the conversation would just be a lot of fun. Like, she's the person that would burp the loudest at the table.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and when you're talking about a dinner party, like I want people there that I feel like I find interesting and would like to know more about. That is definitely somebody that I find interesting and I would like to know more about. So, and I mean, how, you know, just like, I feel like that's someone I would want to do like a long form interview with.
Oh yeah.
You know,
it's one of the, like, I'd assume that would be like a lot of fun. I could see it being kind of, I feel like she could be reserved in a situation like that. But
sure.
At dinner party, if like this is not being recorded, then it might be a little bit more freeing.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think I would just probably like maybe just talk about like, you know, what experiences you felt like, you know, like shaped you into the person you are, and you know all sorts of different stuff. Like I said, I don't know if it would be a conversation, like a two-sided conversation. I feel like that's somebody I would just want to learn more about, because you don't get that a lot from, especially actresses.
I feel like she would, like, you wouldn't even really have to ask her anything. I think she'd be the person that would kind of bring herself into other conversations that would just be fun to listen to what she has thoughts on other things.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
That. All right. For my 5th round pick, this is somebody that I've picked for a couple things before. He's the creator of one of my favorite IPs of all time, but it was at the recent Comic-Con hearing him discuss and kind of host the panel for that I got really interested in him. I think he'd be kind of the same way. He'd be able to talk a lot about different comics, music, and he'd be the guy that walks in and nobody knows who he is probably and why he's there. But it'd be one Kevin Eastman, the co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Nice.
I've kind of said a lot of the stuff that I probably want to discuss in that, but I feel like it'd be the same way. Like, I'd really just kind of want to figure out a topic that he would start and just join in and go with him, because he was the owner of, was it Heavy Metal magazine?
Really?
Yeah, it was one of those that he ended up buying like post Turtles and kept it going.
Nice.
Yeah, he's definitely kind of like a grungy rock kind of guy. He's created a lot of like kind of interesting, weird comics, and just kind of like seeing like what ideas he has for other things, just not Turtles.
Nice.
So not too much to say on that specifically, because I have said a lot on him before, but my 5th round pick, Kevin Eastman.
Oh God, I'm already at 5. And I'm looking at this list. I'm like, oh, there's people I want to put on here. All right. So Shawn, for my next pick, I'm going to go with somebody that has a philosopher. I feel like is a philosopher, a poet.
Did he know it?
He did know it. Yes, he did know it. Has lit the world for the past probably 50 years with amazing music. And I don't know if I would want to talk about his music, or if I'd want to talk about his life experience, or if I want to talk about the way he writes songs. Shawn, we're at pick number 5. For my number 5, Bob Dylan.
Ooh, that'd be fun. Would you have him bring a guitar?
No, I don't even. No, I wouldn't want him to play. He doesn't need to play anything. But like, if you listen to a Bob Dylan song, the music's good. But the reason I feel that Dylan is such a great songwriter is because I feel, to me, Dylan is the kind of person that writes a poem and then shapes a song around it.
Yeah.
If you read the lyrics of any Bob Dylan song, it reads like a Robert Frost poem. I mean, there's a reason that he won a Nobel Prize for literature.
Yeah,
because like he's an amazing writer, and it's not just the music. It's the fact that like he writes lyrics that moved a fucking generation.
So was
and
that
not
something-
just. Well, I was just like not just like I don't know if I don't like talking beyond his music. Like you're talking about somebody that has been a fucking rock star since the 1960s, 50s. He started off, people thought he was more of a folk country singer. I mean, this is a guy that wrote fucking The Times They Are A-Changin'.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So,
I mean, you can recite a Dylan lyric and it just it's almost like he was speaking for an entire group of, he was speaking for an entire generation. I feel he was the voice of a generation.
Is he somebody that you kind of discovered on your own, or did you? How did you find him? I guess.
I've always kind of shied away from Dylan when I was younger. I was very much into much like heavier stuff, like Sabbath and Pantera, and not really so much Zeppelin, but much heavier music, especially when I was like in my early late teens. I didn't really get around to Dylan till like my late 20s, and it wasn't really. And like I said, I mean, the music's good, but if I just recite lyrics to you from Dylan songs, you're just like, it almost like hits you like, oh my God. And then when you think of the context that he, that he wrote songs in, like he wrote songs during like, mass protests at, the Vietnam War and fucking shootings at Kent State and the civil rights movement, and he was trying to encapsulate those experiences into words, and I felt like he did it more than anybody else ever did.
I like that. That'd be fun because you kind of get a little bit of your music there, a lot of history. You and I are both
oh my God.
fans
So
of history.
like I said, like this is a guy that's been a rock star since there were rock stars.
Yeah, he's 79 years old. So
yeah.
To get it in before.
You almost be like, what was Woodstock like? What was, traveling on the road in the 70s like? What was, on a fucking tour bus with a band?
It's like back in the day when a dime bag cost a dime. You know how much condoms cost back in the day? I don't know how much. I don't know. We didn't use them.
Oh, damn.
Well, for my 6th round pick, Richard, this kind of goes the same with your Jennifer Lawrence, and this is somebody that I kind of had the same feel for as her.
Okay.
She's been in a couple good movies that I've enjoyed. She is in Zombieland, and I've always really enjoyed lots of the conversations I've seen her in, and it is one Emma Stone.
Okay.
Yeah, she was in the new Spider-Man. She was she Gwen in that? Who was she in that?
That I don't remember.
She was the blonde, I think.
I cannot recall. I'm trying to think of what all she's been in. She's been in quite a bit of things. Ugh. But although none of them are like jumping out at me. Oh, that's right. She was in Birdman. That's right.
She was in Superbad way back in the day.
Yeah, but I liked Birdman.
I've seen her in conversations. She's fun. I think she'd be kind of the life of the party and kind of keep everybody up and entertained. You get to pick a little bit of her brain because I think she's kind of act the gamut. Like Birdman, she's got a serious actor. Zombieland's kind of comedy. Superbad's kind of a big comedy too. So she's kind of been like all over the place when it comes to acting.
You were thinking of the Amazing Spider-Man. That's why it was throwing me off. Because she did play Gwen, but it was in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man era.
Yes, I think she was in both. Yeah, and she was Gwen Stacy. I couldn't remember if she was Gwen or she was somebody else. But I think it'd be super fun. Okay. Would be pumped for it, and like I said, I think she'd kind of keep the party going. So she seems like the one too. Is like, hey, let's go get a nightcap. Like let's go after hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, my 6th round pick. I'm gonna go with one Emma Stone.
Okay, for my 6th round pick, I'm curious actually what you're gonna think of this one. So because I'm gonna say it, and then I'm not exactly sure how you're gonna react. I'm not 100% because for me, I think this would be a fucking fascinating person to just talk to and about, state of the world. I feel like, he has a unique perspective on things. Ready?
Ready.
All right. 6th round pick, Barack Obama.
Oh, I thought you were going to say John Oliver.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, his early life obviously was pretty, growing up in Hawaii, then growing up in Chicago. Upbringing, I think, was one of those things that, there's tons of information or like history and stories there. I think talking with anybody, especially if you get candid, like talking to any president to be like, what's it like to be president?
Exactly. Well, not just like what's it like to be president, but like to get a candid response to, situations in the world, situations that I feel like he currently is not that far removed from. I mean, you're talking about somebody that's 3 years ago was in charge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I feel like you would get a fairly recent and fresh perspective on, all sorts of like geopolitical situations or, domestic situations, and just be like, what do you think? Like if there weren't obstructions in the way, like how would you propose to solve problems? Well, how would you solve problems?
Yeah. The main question I don't know is like, listen, you have to be extremely tired. Like, when do you actually get to like have time with your wife?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I say it justly, like almost like, when do you actually get to knock boots with your wife? Because to me, like, I don't work the hours a president works, and sometimes I'm too tired to want to knock boots with my wife. I could imagine it's like, well,
I am never. You hear me?
I don't know.
I am never.
If you're like,
too tired.
You've got a 4:00 in the morning with all these different political leaders. Like,
right? You got to be on. You got to be on all the time. And not only do you have to be on all the time, you have to be on, and then like you're going to get woken up at 4:00 in the morning and faced with a problem that nobody else is able to solve. And that's the reason that it's on your desk. That's the thing. Is like, think about this, is that like, you're the president. The things that actually come to you are the fucking super hard things that no one else has been able to fucking figure out yet. Like, there's a reason it's now at your desk.
Yeah.
Like, you're constantly faced with the hardest decisions with ramifications that you don't even know.
Oh yeah.
You don't even know where they go, how things unfold.
You make a decision and you don't know, okay, like I didn't think of the ramifications all the way over on this side.
Exactly.
You always wonder too, like you watch presidents that have been there for 8 years. It's like you see them when they come in, like Barack Obama's like what, in his mid-50s?
Something like that. Like you always see him like after 4 years, or even like you look at Obama when during his first inauguration, and then look at him after 8 years. His entire head went fucking gray.
What I like, I've seen it for the last few presidents, but you see like the day they're walking into the White House and they're kind of like glum looking, like not really smiling. And then like the day they're leaving office, they're just big smiles, waving, like, yeah, I'm fucking done. Because I mean, it legit has to feel like the biggest weight off your shoulders once you're getting out of office. Oh my God, it
has to be.
I know a lot of times they don't get back into politics too much. because you kind of got to that point, so there's really nothing else for you to get into.
Look at George Bush. Like he did 8 years and then he got out and he's like, fuck this. I just paint now. He's like everybody's weird fucking hippie uncle now, where he's just like, I sit down in Texas and fucking paint pictures. Like, that's my life.
Well, and
every now and again, people call me up and then I show up for things. And I'm like, hey, what's up, everybody? And then like,
that's what I would do. And I mean, because, you know, they get every president when they get out, they get a book deal worth millions of dollars.
Sure.
Speaking engagements. It's like I do 2 speaking engagements a year and I make $10 million.
But I'm saying, like, fucking, like, look at George Bush. Like, he got out of office and now all he does is he sits around, he paints, I think he paints pictures. He finds veterans and he does like portraits. I think he did that for a while. And now he just paints. Like, that's his life. He's just like, I'm just going to sit around and paint.
Yep. Can't get mad at me for this. Paint.
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
Like,
I mean, like Barack Obama right now, he's just producing like content on like, Netflix
I think he makes shows for Netflix.
Oh, now new show. So if we tweet this and Barack Obama's like, well, I'm going to listen to this. That's my worst Barack Obama impression. But Netflix show, Richard.
I might listen to.
Well, I think that I'm going to language to the language of bromance.
Bromance.
So it's a competition show, Richard, where it's contestants who have to make a meal out of just leftovers in a fridge.
Yeah. I think you did tweet something about this. I did. Yeah, I did see this.
Because that's when Tiff was on her way home last night. She was like, and I guess this ties into the president thing because they never have to worry about leftovers in the fridge because they're like, hey, I want this. And guess what? They get it fresh. She's like, I want like a Mexican pizza because we had some leftover ground turkey and we had some shells. And so I took those, ground turkey, salsa, some cheese stuff she made, some shredded cheese, a little bit of other seasonings. Oof, it was good stuff. Baked it.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. It was delicious.
Proud of you.
Thanks. I can take trash and turn it into something edible.
Yeah. Turn it into not trash. That's what I'll say.
All right. Oh,
so that's my number 6 pick, former president Barack Obama.
Good pick. I like that pick. For my 7th round money shot pick, Richard, I want to go. I think The Rock and him would have a really good repertoire. He's kind of the same way. Like he seems like the fun uncle at the holiday party. You know, the one that like
George Bush, isn't it?
It's George Bush. No, he's gonna paint my picture. It's Deadpool, Richard. I want to go with Ryan Reynolds.
Interesting.
Same thing. Like you see him in interviews, you see him like he doesn't seem to take life too serious. I love the fact that whenever he talks about acting, I feel like he does it because he's good at it and he likes it, but he doesn't like the actual lifestyle of acting. Because like whenever you're in interviews, you hear him talk about like just how awful it is, but he does it in kind of like a backhanded way. And a lot of people are like, well, when do you think you're going to get your kids into acting? He's like, well, never, because I like them. So, and I would hope that it wouldn't be like an acting like 101 thing from him. I would just think that he'd be a fun guy to talk to about just different random things. And that's kind of what I tried to make this list out of, is just people that, they might be able to throw in some of their experiences, but it's kind of like this, like, hey, did you see this movie? Or, hey, what do you think of this thing? Hey, do you like comics? What would happen if, there was this guy who jumped off of a big building and landed in a bowl of Jell-O? What would that be like? Just like random conversations. And I feel like Ryan Reynolds would totally get that for you. And
I feel like he has that improv gene.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That I feel like that's what you're looking for. I feel like your dinner party sounds like much more of a rager.
Yeah, it would be. It's gonna
like
be
your dinner party to me seems like for me, like I'm serving like 3 courses, and there's a Wagyu grade A5 beef, and like I feel like you're having like a kegger with burgers.
Yeah, mine's definitely a barbecue outside.
Yeah, yours is happening like outside, and there's picnic tables, and then there's that really flimsy plastic on the picnic table, and red Solo cups everywhere,
half drunk beers. Like, yeah, mine's probably more like, this should be like the float trip group that I take. Because I mentioned that with your Jennifer Lawrence, but yeah, if this was like the float trip, like you got The Rock and Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, that's what this is. Craig Ferguson kind of floating down, making jokes. Yeah,
I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that mine seems a bit more upscale.
Yeah, yours is going to be a little bit more proper attire, and mine's like, hey, burger or dog or both.
Yeah. Yours like everybody at yours is wearing like tank tops.
Oh yeah, flip flops, tank tops, and drinking Natty Light.
Mm-hmm. Cut off shorts.
Mm-hmm. Actually, my wife threw away my pair of cut off jean shorts.
Yeah, fix that.
I know I'm gonna have to make some more shorts because I've got the legs to show those things off.
Do you really?
Yeah, I got good legs.
I haven't seen your legs in a while.
Yeah.
I always see you from. No, I'm thinking about it. I haven't seen you from like the waist down in quite some time. Oh God, that sounded wrong.
Well, I mean, the last time we've been anywhere, it's been cold because we went to Red Bank, but that was cold.
Yeah, that's true.
And game days, I'm always under the table or behind the table.
Okay, that sounded worse.
Oh God. But yeah, my money shot pick again. I think he'd be fun, and if he's kind of a jerk, he just be like, "So, how'd you feel about that Green Lantern movie?"
All right. For my money shot pick, I've said a lot of bad things about this guy, but I want him at my dinner party because I feel like the guy is visionary. I feel like he has a wealth of experience, a wealth of history, and I feel like he is able to see like 30 years ahead, and I want to know where things are going. Shawn for my money shot pick, and like I said, I've said a lot about him, but I still got, can't deny that it would have been an amazing conversation. George Lucas.
Oh, I wasn't sure if it was going to be him or Elon Musk.
Why would I pick Elon Musk?
I don't know because
I don't care about. Why would I care about Elon?
You listen to Elon Musk, and it's like, you know what? It'd be cool, like if you could, like, have these tunnels like hamsters that went all over the place, so we could just float through. It's like, yeah, we're working on that. Like we just got to get some.
Elon Musk reminds me a lot of Prince, where his sense of reality is not like our sense of reality, and so when he says things, or when we say things and he says things, I feel like we're coming. Like we're on different planes of existence.
Well, and I don't know if that's just because if he's always been that way because he's eccentric, or if he was like semi-eccentric and then just boatloads of cash have fallen in his lap that allow him to become more eccentric. Because I think he said he wants to die on Mars. Like I think that's his goal is to get to Mars and die there.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Not like die like right away, but like get there and live and then be buried on Mars.
Who needs an airlock? I made it, thud.
Burning through the atmosphere. No, George Lucas would be fun. I've seen him in a few interviews. I'm not sure what the conversation would be like with him.
I feel like he seems. I feel like he's gotten a lot more curmudgeon-y as time has gone on.
I was told that there would be hamburgers and hot dogs.
No, that's the other one. That's next door. That's the float trip next door. I definitely feel he's definitely gotten more curmudgeon-y. So I feel like I'd have to liquor him up a little bit to get him to really get like the good stuff out of him.
He could be the guy you have to like call the cab for. He's like, I do use 7, 8, 9. There's gonna be a election.
Yeah,
you're like, oh well. Glad.
Thanks, George.
Glad we didn't see that one.
But like I was saying, we were talking like in the 70s. He'd come up with Star Wars, where like he was developing effects that people weren't thinking, that people didn't even start conceiving of until 10 years later.
Yeah,
and then in the 80s, he was coming up with technologies that weren't even possible to use until the 90s.
Yeah, like
Pixar, the stuff ILM was doing. It wasn't until the 90s that everybody was like, this is really fucking good. Who made this? What the fuck's Pixar? George Lucas thought of this? That's a great fucking idea.
Well, yeah, you don't get to the new studio thing they use for Mandalorian without him. Not just story-wise, but his tech-wise.
So, yeah, exactly. Because, okay, so back in the mid-90s, he's making movies using, using lit green screens and then painting everything in, which is exactly what the Mandalorian is doing, except they're using LEDs and real-time cameras. He didn't have that technology then, and so he was using green screens and CGI. And that, like I said, that was in the mid-90s. So I feel like where his head is and where technology is always he's always like 10 years ahead. So I would love to hear like him say, him talk about like, where he thinks film should go, and then I'm gonna help, and then that's where I will take that idea and then become a billionaire.
Ah, there you go. So your money shot pick is so that you can get the money.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a good point.
And then I'll actually get invited to dinner parties like this.
So let me hear a few of your and buts.
All right. So for and buts, I had kind of in the same vein, I had Dave Filoni, who was the co-creator on Mandalorian. He was the one that helped come up with the story for Clone Wars, for Star Wars Rebels, for basically I feel like he has kind of inherited that Star Wars stewardship once George sold Lucasfilm off. So Dave Filoni's on there. I did have Robert Downey Jr. I feel like that would it would be. I feel like that'd be fun. I did have Edward Snowden on here because I've seen interviews with him, and I mean seems like a fascinating person to talk to.
Did you watch the Rogan with him or listen to the Rogan with him?
I did. Yeah,
that was interesting.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is like since I've watched that stuff and seen all that, seen the interviews and everything, I don't really know what else I could get.
Yeah, conversation. I feel like that's kind of where all of his conversations would end up going. It's like, hey, did you know they're spying on us? Like, yeah, Edward, we know. Like,
yeah,
man, yeah. What are we gonna do? I like having my iPhone.
I also had Howard Stern.
I don't know. Howard Stern seems like he might be a little too pretentious.
I kind of thought that. I guess the reason I picked Howard is because I honestly feel like Howard is, I feel like Howard is much smarter than he lets on.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think he's really, really intelligent, but
I think he's much smarter than what people perceive him to be. And so I think like having an actual conversation with him, I think would be interesting to get that. At Gordon Ramsay, the reason I didn't pick Ramsay is because I felt like Ramsay would be a bit too intense for me.
Yeah.
Like I would love to pick his brain about all sorts of things, but I feel like, like he has such an energy and such an intensity that I feel like it would be kind of overwhelming.
Have you seen any of the shows that he does with kids?
I've seen them all.
I always kind of wonder if like what you see on the Hell's Kitchen compared to how you see him interact with kids, if he's
definitely
if he's more in the middle.
I guess I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying that. Like I think that he would be like a screaming, raving lunatic. Like I don't think he operates. Like when I say like a level of intensity, I guess I'm not saying like, a level of anger or pissed offness. Like he just seems like a very intense person, like a very driven, focused person.
He'd be trying to get in and out of the dinner party because he's got something better.
Yeah, I can't like Kitchen Nightmares, can't watch that show. However, if you watch the old Kitchen Nightmares that he did in the UK, those are way more better because he's not a screaming raving lunatic. He's he is intense but he's not ranting and raving, the entire show.
I gotcha.
It's much less drama and I feel much more genuine if you watch those.
So it's more of an actual reality TV compared to what we consider reality with quotes TV.
Exactly. Watch the old shows that he did in the UK, and I feel like you get a much clearer picture of how he would actually act. But even then, I still feel like he'd be a bit too intense for me. Two other ones I had Nathan Fillion.
Ooh,
I feel like that'd be fun.
That'd be a good one.
Another one, John Mulaney. I feel like he would be fun. I feel like he would just be fun.
That's a good
I feel like
one
he'd be
too.
Hilarious.
Yeah. He seems like he'd be a lot of fun because I've seen him on like sit down interviews and stuff, and he always seems like he would be pretty genuine again. Just that's what I would want from a lot of people, is just more of a genuine kind of conversation.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be hilarious at a party. The other thing, I have to note this. I did make a very small list of people, even though they're dead, but I felt like I have to mention them anyway. And there's 4. I only have 4 on that. Top of the list, Anthony Bourdain. When you said dinner party, immediately that person would have been my number 1 pick, hands down. Prince would be another one, which we talked about Prince earlier. Tom Petty would be another one, basically kind of the same way as Dylan. And the last one would be, and don't awe or anything like that, but the last one would be my dad.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay. Now, what were some of yours?
So I had Chris Jericho, the wrestler. I've been listening to his podcast a bunch, and he's very good at kind of conversations and has a wide variety of interest. Wrestling,
you can talk about music,
comics, film, all kinds of stuff. Scott Mosier from Smodcast.
Good call.
He would be, I think, a little bit more reserved and quiet probably, but he's somebody that, like, if you had more of a one-on-one situation, could get a lot of fun conversations out of.
Oh, definitely.
Brian Posehn. He's a comedian. He's been on the Sarah Silverman show. I went to see his stand-up. It was pretty good. Ming Chen, I think, would be fun to kind of sit. We've sat with him before.
Yes.
This would be, I kind of thought about switching her with Emma Stone because her and Craig Ferguson always had some great chemistry. Christian Bell from Sarah Marshall.
Yeah.
And then my last, again, because he's kind of a fun goofball, Paul Rudd, Mr. Ant-Man.
Oh, my God.
That'd be a blast.
Fucking Paul Rudd. I'll tell you what, like, you know how we always talk about Jason Momoa and how, like, you know, my wife really likes Jason Momoa, and, you know, she requested a hall pass for Jason Momoa, and I was like, I don't know if
you're like, I do too.
Because, right. I apparently also have to give one for Paul Rudd.
Oh, you better be careful because he lives close to you.
God damn it. And I'll tell you what, like, just recently, I saw a pic. Have you seen a picture of him recently? He grew a fucking quarantine beard, and now he just looks fucking even more amazing. And I'm like, God damn it. I was like, you can't show up with a fucking Marvel, with that Marvel superhero body, all fucking like jacked and shit. He's got the realistic
looking one too. Because his is more realistic.
Right. And then he's got that fucking quarantine beard and a great fucking personality and super fucking, like, you can't do that. Yep. You can't be everything. You can't be everything, Paul Rudd. Do you understand?
Doesn't look like he's aged past 30.
I watched he did a Hot Ones interview. Have you seen that show Hot Ones?
Yeah.
He did a Hot Ones interview. And at the end of it, like, they're sitting there and they're pouring hot wings. And he's just like, hey. Look at us. Look at us right now. Isn't this great? And I'm like, God damn you, Paul Rudd. Stop being so fucking charming.
He's a guy who's like just enjoying every moment of life.
Exactly. Paul Rudd loves being Paul Rudd.
Yeah. After the Kansas City Royals won the World Series, he was like partying. He's like, Kager at mom's house because his mom lives in Kansas City. All right, well, let me run through these picks real quick. So for my first round pick, I had The Rock. Second round pick, April O'Neil. Third round pick, Craig Ferguson. Fourth round pick, Lucas Giolito. Fifth round pick, Kevin Eastman. Sixth round pick, Emma Stone. And seventh round money shot pick, Ryan Reynolds. The float trip to end all float trips. For the more proper party, Rich had Kevin Smith, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Mark Hamill, Jennifer Lawrence, Bob Dylan, Barack Obama, and George Lucas. Good picks. Well, Richard, as we're tidying up this 57th draft, do you have any Richard's closing thoughts?
If anyone wants to send contact information so we could actually sit down and have a dinner party, I will accept anyone on either list.
Oh, and if anybody from our list wants to come over, I will totally make you homemade leftover Mexican pizzas.
And I will make you real food.
All right, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. Visit our website, we're at languageofbros.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at languageofbro. Email us at bros@languageofbromance.com. And if you want to take that bigger step and help us out, you can join our Patreon account. And as always, we love to thank Wendy and Aaron.
You guys rock, and you would totally be invited to the dinner party. However, you would have to sit against the wall because you were not stealing my thunder. I have to. I'm punching way, way, way above my weight class as is. I don't need two other people there fucking trying to horn in.
Yeah, so they go to your party, they get full up on some good food, and they come over to the float trip. Then we float down the river.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Well, is there anything else for our closer out?
I'm good, sir.
All right. Well, that's all the Bromance Draft for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And remember, don't be a why. Be a why not.
And fuck you, Paul Rudd.
Oh, shit. Could you imagine if I did pick him on our float trip?
Oh.
He'd be standing there shirtless, be like, hey, everybody. Hey, look at us. Isn't this great? Hey.
God damn you, Paul Rudd.
Amanda, you need to put some more sunscreen on.
It really is. It is great. But fuck you for saying it.